Well, this is one of the old Lincoln welders that I used to have. These things were given to me years ago. It did run at one time, then the engine went bad. I don't know if it's fixable. It's probably a scrapper, but I do have some parts for it in the garage that everybody made fun of. So we're gonna take a look at this thing, make a decision as to whether it's fixable or it's gonna go in the scrapper. I'd like to fix it because these things were kind of neat. They are an AC and DC welder, and they also have the ability to operate as a generator. You can see here we have outlets on it. I used to put this on my truck, and when I had to do those quick welding jobs, these things were handy. Again, this one was running 20 years ago. I got another one after it, and it just didn't make sense. It was kind of beat up. So I figured, well, I'll do something with it. This tank had rust in it, but we'll see. You know, it'd be kind of nice to fix this up. Otherwise, it'll be going down the road. Now, what I wanted to talk about is something that we call pollarding. You may have heard of coppicing, where you cut down shrubs to the ground and they regrow, but this is pollarding. This is when you trim trees and shrubs and whatever. Now, the small branches, the little stuff, I just put on the ground and grind it up with a lawnmower. And within weeks, it becomes part of the soil. You can see the soil here is a mixture of what was here, sand, organic matter, rocks, and whatever else gets in here. So this actually has formed a very good base for this tree. For example, this is the largest black olive tree in the neighborhood. I planted this thing when I was a kid, and it's massive. It's more than 3 feet across. It's huge. The diameter of this thing, it's very thick. The root system is strong. But at one time, this was a lawn, like all the other yards here. And over time, I just got tired of it. So instead of worrying about watering and weeding, I mean, look at the soil here. It's almost like a loam. It's really nice. There's a lot of small roots, feeder roots for trees and so on. And everything grows really well. But what I wanted to do is mention a little bit about a fuel source. And again, all this material that I cut from the large tree, and I'm just starting to cut it little by little. I'll compost it up. Here's a larger log. I set this welder down with a bobcat, and now I can't move it because the tire's flat. I'm going to see if I can replace this where it's mobile again. Like I said, otherwise I'll probably be taking it apart. But the point I was actually going to make is that a lot of times when I fire up my side of the road grill, I use wood that I've cut from my own trees. And there's a lot of this stuff. There's some old logs. There's all kinds of stuff here. And I'll burn this up in a few meals. When it's all burned up, that ash goes back into the ground, and a lot of the potassium and magnesium and other minerals can be reabsorbed into the soil and used to grow new plants. I was having a discussion with my friend, the one that was vegetarian, vegan, raw vegan, tried carnivore, failed after 3 months, and then went to a meat-based keto diet where he's thriving. And I remember a while back when I would talk to him, he used to mention that the bad thing about cooking food. Now, he was in this whole raw vegan nonsense, and he even followed some of these raw vegan scammers. You know, there's a few of them even on YouTube. I don't know if these guys are for real or if they're just playing a game. But a lot of times they say, well, raw, natural food, juice fast, and all this nonsense. So I told him, I said, look, you do realize that you eat cooked food, even though you say you're a raw vegan. And of course, he got really offended by that. What do you mean I eat cooked food? I only eat raw living foods. I said, yeah, but when you eat that piece of fruit, you drink that juice, you eat those sprouts, or whatever else you're going to eat, those things are cooked. Well, how can that be? Well, your body temperature is close to 100 degrees. How long is that food going to be in your system? It may be in your system for 24 hours. Well, if you're a raw vegan, it's probably only in there for 8 hours. But still, if you're going to eat food and digest it, that food is going to be at almost 99 degrees for a long time. And if you've ever thought of like a crock pot or a slow cooker cooks at a lower temperature for a long time. So even if you go over here and eat some berries, fruits, whatever, you're going to be cooking that food. Also, If you wanted to eat something like a banana, you can't swallow the whole banana whole. You choke on it, but you have to chew it up. You have to peel the banana, chew it up. You're not going to eat the banana with the banana peel. I can't imagine anyone wanting to do that. So again, even if you're a fruitarian, raw vegan, or whatever, you're still eating cooked food. And the food is being cooked internally inside your body. Also, the raw vegans many times say that they want the food to be in its pure natural living form. But the thing is, you don't swallow the food whole. And even if you did, if you were to swallow, let's say, a Suriname cherry whole and not choke on it, it's not going to come out the other end exactly as it went in. So you're going to have to chew the food, you're going to have to break it up, you're cooking the food. It's all taking place inside of you. And you're probably fermenting it as well. Now, as human beings, we have a lot more insight than your typical animals do. We don't have to just eat whatever is out there. You know, you'll have animals that eat bugs and other animals, and they have to deal with the toxins and all the other problems. We can select the food that we want to eat. We can prepare the food we want to. We can wash it, we can cook it, we can dry it, we can ferment it. There's a lot of things that we can do. And this gives our body a bit of a break. So instead of having to spend a lot of energy with the immune system trying to knock out pathogens and trying to make the food usable, we can actually do this before we eat it. And that means that unlike a cow, which has to eat all day and is going to be re-chewing its food, we can do other things, like build things, fix things, or whatever. So, and again, when it comes into the concept of entropy, having that reduced entropy gives us an advantage. It's just like me having a bobcat gives me a lot of advantage over just a pick and shovel. But the other thing too, if you look around, look at all this stuff on the ground, all this plant material, these twigs and all that, where do they come from? Well, they came from sunlight over there, carbon dioxide in the air, some minerals from the soil, water, and the activity of bacteria in the soil. And this soil bacteria, it gets its plant material that comes from what drops off of the trees and plants, and it's broken down into a usable form that the plants can use. So even the plants, they can't be raw vegan because the leaves that they drop, they cannot reabsorb into their system and use for growth. So they basically have to have their stuff either cooked or broken down by bacteria. If I burn this in the barbecue pit, it turns to ashes. The ashes mixed with water go back into the soil and they can feed the plant. Well, actually, plants feed themselves by sunlight. These fruits over here on the orange tree, and you can see the way I propped it up. I used a pipe, I used a strap, and an elastic band. I've got it up in the air. These fruits are actually stored energy or reduced entropy that came from the sun. And the seeds inside of here, they're going to allow this plant to reproduce and continue the cycle. So really, ultimately, if you're going to say that you are a raw vegan, the reality is you're eating cooked and processed food. You process it by juicing it, chewing it, using digestive juices, stomach acid, whatever. That's processing. You're inside of a body that's warm, that's cooking. And then it's repurposed into something you can use. Just as these plants, they can't just eat each other the way they are. They drop their leaves, they fall to the ground, they get broken up either mechanically or just by the action of fungi and bacteria. Then the fungi and bacteria break them down into their components. They go into the soil, and then the roots of the plants, they come in and they pick them up, and the cycle starts all over again. And again, it's all fed by sunlight, that reduced source of entropy. So it's just a little thought that I had. I've talked to people many times about this. Talking to a vegan, though, is sometimes like talking to a coral rock. You know, you're not going to get any kind of response. And if you do get a response, it's going to be a mean one. But hey, that's the way it is. So, hope you're having a good day, and I'll catch you later.